training with Helicopter Land Ground School. Going out with Chris Hauser today in the Cabri G2. And we're going to go out and shoot some video for Helicopter Land Ground School. What we're going to do is go out and Hauser's going to demo for us the traditional method for recovering from a Vortex ring state selling with power. And he's also going to do this. He's going to do the standard method first and then do the Vuichard recovery and just give you some insight on both, how it looks and feels in the Cabri.
Hey, we're going to get right back to that in-flight video real quick. But first, helicopter check ride and top 10 check ride tips. Both Amazon #1 bestsellers. I have PDFs below in the description box. You can click them, download them, check them out. No cost. It's a PDF. Just wanted to let you know. Those are down below. So let's go back and do some flying with Hauser and see how it comes out.
All right, so we're heading out today to do standard recovery and the Vuichard recovery for Vortex ring state selling with power. I'm going to let Chris Hauser take over here in just a second, but I just wanted to mention Chris is one of our Helicopter Land Ground School guest instructors. Chris and I did his ratings many years ago. He's been out teaching quite some time, and he's getting ready to move on with his career, but right now he's teaching in the Cabri among doing some charter work and other things. So when you're ready, Chris, just kind of talk us through. You did intro this actually for me one time already, and I really liked how you kind of explained everything on the old method versus the Bashar Method. So just in your own words, just kind of talk me through what you've observed and how you're teaching it now and your thoughts on the subject.
So we're going to fly out here. We're going to climb up to about 1,800 feet, which gives us about 1,000 feet of playing room there. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up an out-of-ground effect hover at 1,800 feet, which is about 1,000 feet AGL in the state of Indiana here. If you have, and we're going to demonstrate, get into out-of-ground effect hover and then demonstrate a Vortex ring state. As you know, the U.S. you kind of use Vortex ring state and settling with power as interchangeably, but now the U.S. has now decided that we are going to name it Vortex ring state, which will match the rest of the world. When I was doing my training, there was really only one method, which is what we call the traditional method. We're in out-of-ground effect hover. We get into Vortex ring state, which we know is you got to be less than ETL. You got to have 20 to 100% available power, and you got to have a descent rate of 300-foot descent or greater. Well, I was always taught that if you have to have all three in order to get in that. Well, if you take away one, then you're no longer in it. So the easiest one to take away is to build airspeed. So obviously, if you're in an out-of-ground effect hover, you have no airspeed. All you got to do is push that cyclic forward, build some airspeed, and now you're getting out of it. Once you have a positive rate of airspeed there, then start adding collective, and off you go. Here recently, within the last, 2 or 3 years, they've started talking about this Vuichard method, and they've actually updated the helicopter flying handbook to include the Vuichard method. I wish they went into a little bit more detail about it in the book, but they don't. They give it like a little bit of a paragraph, and you got to kind of read it. In my opinion, you kind of got to read it 2 or 3 times to actually understand what they're saying. But anyway, so with the traditional method, we're just going to build airspeed to get out of it, and we'll demonstrate that here shortly, as soon as I get set up here. There's our 18. We're actually climbing up to 2,000. We're going to turn into the wind, so we're about 2 or 3 miles south of the airport. The wind's there, we're 280, so we're going to kind of make a right turn here and kind of get ourselves situated with into the wind. As I'm doing that, I'm going to set up for this out-of-ground effect hover. I'm over an open field here. I've got plenty of altitude. Start bringing my airspeed back. I'm going to bring us into the hover. In order to demonstrate this with students, I either put us in a Vortex ring state, or we'll just set it up from an out-of-ground effect hover by simulating lowering the collective to get into descent, and then we push it forward. So here we are setting up, bringing the airspeed back a little bit. As I'm doing it, adding some collective here. Don't mind me, I'm kind of talking like I'm an instructor here. Alright, looking for that trim string to go dead. There it is, it's going limp. Showing about 10 knots of ground speed. We're barely cruising forward here. There's 8 knots of ground speed. So we're pretty much in it. Alright, so if we look at our power, pulling 92%. I'm controlling the descent rate. We're at 0. There's ground ground speed showing 3 dashes. We're completely at 0. All right, so I'm pulling about 98% power here because there's not a lot of wind. I can be in that, in the G2, I can be in that yellow for 5 minutes as long as I'm under 30. All right, so I'm holding here. Now the traditional method, if we start sinking, we're going to feel some of that vibration. We're going to see the VSI come alive. And then we're going to have little to no cyclic authority or even collective authority. As I lower the collective, kind of simulate us starting to sink here. I'm just going to do what we call the traditional method, and I'm going to push forward. All right, so I'm pushing down, maintaining heading. There we're getting some vibration. There's 500-foot descent rate. There's 600, there's 700, it's building. All right, so I need to recover here. There's almost 1,000. So I'm just going to push the nose forward. And just nice and easy, nice and gentle. Build that airspeed. There's my airspeed indicator coming alive. Now I'm going to start coming up on my collective, and we're going to fly out of it. This method is great if you have altitude to play with, right? So right now I just lost 500 feet. I just lost 500 feet right there, recovering in the traditional method. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to set up, and I'll demonstrate the Vuichard method. So I think each recovery technique has its time and place. If you have altitude, I would always go with the traditional. Build airspeed. If you have altitude to play with, then you get into vortex ring state, then just build airspeed to get out of it. The problem is some of those guys, some of those pilots, due to the nature of their work, are hovering in kind of in the height velocity diagram, the dead man's curve there, where they don't have altitude, and that's because of the nature of their job. They're hovering at 200 feet, doing line work, or they're doing whatever, hovering at 200 feet where, you know what, I just lost 500 feet recovering there. Well, at 200 feet, obviously I don't have 500 feet to recover from, so they may want to look at the Vuichard method, okay? In this aircraft, in the G2, due to the clockwise rotating system, the Vuichard method, I'm going to raise collective. The recovery technique, the corrective action, is I'm going to raise collective as I'm adding right pedal, and then I'm going to sidestep to the left. I'm going to actually put cyclic input to the left, and I'm going to sidestep. Now, it's just not a little push of the left cyclic. It's a good input of left cyclic to get out of that. What you're doing is you want to get out of that downward column of air and completely get out of that so your rotors are in that nice, clean, undisturbed air. The good
410 is about 4 miles to the west, inbound landing Scotia.
The good thing about the Bashar method is that you don't lose a lot of altitude. You may lose only 50 to 100 feet, or even less, depending on how fast you set it up or how fast you recover from it. So here I'm back at my 2,000 feet. I'm setting up into our out of ground effect hover again. So the Vuichard method is nice if you don't have altitude to play with. The one downfall about the Vuichard method is, since you are sidestepping in one direction, you better be aware of what's on your side that you're sidestepping to. So those guys working on power lines or towers or whatever, if they need to sidestep, they really need to make sure that there's no obstacle to your side, to that side. So in the clockwise rotating system like the G2, we're sidestepping to the left. In the counterclockwise, Instrums, Bells, MDs, they're going to be sidestepping to the right.
4.5 miles.
All right, so here we are holding. We're about 2,000 feet here. Trim string is dead. There's my ground speed's dead. So in order to kind of simulate this, I'm going to put us down on, push down a little bit on collective. Now again, to recover from this, I am going to raise collective, add right pedal, and then a good input on left cyclic. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to lower collective a little bit, kind of simulate us sinking. Keeping my heading with the pedals. There's the sink rate. There's our vibration. So I'm going to come up, right, and left. Pull us out of that. Now, as you can see, I've only lost 100 feet on that one. And then I'll push forward and build some airspeed. Still kind of descending a little bit. There's 200 feet. So again, we'll set it up again here. So I think, again, as I was talking about, we'll do it one more time here. We're at 2,000 feet indicated. That's about 1,200 feet off the ground here in Indiana. I'm into the wind. I'm setting us up for out of ground effect hover here. Got a little bit of airspeed still. All right, so we'll be at 1,900. That's where we're going to be, and that's where we're going to start. All right, trim string is dead. Ground speed is about 6 knots. Pretty darn close to 0. All right, so I'm just going to lower collective a little bit, kind of simulate us getting into vortex ring state. There's 500-foot descent rate. There's our vibration. I'm coming up, right,
Surface traffic and has a 49
and left pedal
to short final.
to get out of that call from there. And again, you're losing about 50 to 100 feet. As a recap, I think there's a time and place for each maneuver. The traditional method, if you have altitude, just push the nose forward, build that airspeed, and then get out of it. If you don't have altitude to play with, then the Vuichard method might be the recovery technique that you want. However, just be aware of what you're sidestepping into. Make sure there's no obstacles to your left or right side, whichever side you're stepping into. And there you go.
Awesome.
What do you think?
Great presentation. I'm ready to turn the camera off and practice a little bit. So, all right.
Maybe you should turn it on just for leave it on, and I'll get you for a little bit flying, and then we'll turn it off.
I don't know.
Okay, maybe not.
Not sure if I'm ready for that yet.
All right. Go ahead and turn it off when you're ready, and then I'll give you the controls.
All right. More to come from Chris Hauser in the Cabri. This is our hour number 3. I'm going to do 2 more, so I have my 5 hours. We're getting ready to next week do a pre-flight in the HOGS studios. Hauser's going to bring the Cabri down. We're going to do that video for you. People are really enjoying the Cabri videos, so subscribe to the channel. Click the bell when you do so you'll be notified of our other new videos coming out. Comment below, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out. All right, that one went. Let me turn this thing off and get rid of it. It's on the floor. Let's see if the GoPro's still recording or not.